Welcome to the North Witch Podcast with your hosts Azariel Flame and Sandra Von Holland. In this podcast, we explore all the things that can help us to be better and improve our lives in body, mind, and spirit. Looking at everything from witchcraft, sorcery, woo-woo, spirituality, biohacking, the mundane, and everything in between. We occasionally have on guests from various backgrounds, practices, and philosophies. We welcome everyone from all walks of life, from the left-hand path to the right-hand path, from the medical to the holistic, from the woo-woo to the scientific, and everything in between. We have conversations and discussions about our experiences over the years, what works for us, what hasn't worked, and explore new theories and science, trying them out, seeing what works, and debunking what doesn't. Thank you for joining us on this wicked adventure along the crooked path as we adventure into the mysterious and wonderful world and welcome what truly works for us to become better witches, sorcerers, magicians, and our best selves so that we can live our best lives. May these conversations help you to ignite the light within. The views expressed by our guests on this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of us here at Northwich Magic Co. All of the information shared on this podcast is anecdotal and shared for entertainment purposes only, and does not constitute medical or financial advice. Always consult a doctor, physician, or professional in their field before trying any of the things that may be discussed on this channel. Magic and holistic healing should work alongside allopathic care when necessary. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the North Witch Podcast. On today's episode, we have Beth Haley, and Beth is a certified life enhancement coach, an advanced Psych K facilitator, theta healer, and an outreach facilitator with the Monroe Institute, and she is also a published author. How's it going today, Beth?
Really, really well. Thanks, Justin.
Awesome. All right, so we're happy to have you on here today. So what's new and groovy in your world?
Well, I've been doing the Tuesday night meditation classes, which I do for free every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and we're having a guest speaker come on, actually, Dr. Brian Daly, in a few weeks, which I'm really looking forward to for the May 12th episode. So that'll be really interesting. He's had some miraculous things happen. He teaches the energy medicine class at the Monroe Institute with Alan Evans, and so I'm really looking forward to having him on as our guest speaker.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And still the Hemi Sync meditation?
Still, yeah, we do 2 Hemi Sync meditations every Tuesday night from 6 until 8. And we have between 15 and 50 people show up on any given Tuesday. So we listen to 2 meditations, and it's covering everything from out-of-body work to mediumship to lucid dreaming. We just did lucid dreaming last week. So lots of different topics and lots of meditations that people get the opportunity to listen to at no charge and have a kind of a community around the group on Tuesday nights. So I love doing that, and I'm still doing the Thursday night healing group that I'm part of. So I do that as well, and my office in Red Deer. So yeah, and lots of things. So
that is so good. Beth is where I learned Hemi Sync and all about Hemi Sync, and so for our listeners, Hemi Sync at first for me was like, I don't know what the heck was going on. But I always had a hard time with normal, regular meditation. So with Hemi Sync, it's great because it's guided. And so those of us with our squirrel brains, it's with the different topics, it really, really helped, especially for me. It did take me a few times to figure out and have my aha moment with the Hemi Sync and be able to actually go and travel and get all there is to get out of Hemi Sync. And so, gosh, it's been probably 4 years now, Beth, with COVID. That 2 years seems to always mess with my math a little bit, but it's been a while. So I am always so grateful for you that we got to do the Hemi Sync with you, because I continue to do it, and my brain loves what happens with the Hemi Sync. So
Yeah, the Hemi Sync helps you to get into a whole brain state, which it takes Zen Buddhist monks that are, meditating, they say 20 to 25 years to get into those whole brain states. And it takes about 15 minutes when you're listening to the Hemi Sync to get into that whole brain state. So it's kind of like a shortcut. You can take that much practice time off and get into that nice whole brain state. And, it's not something that's like hypnosis where it's forcing you to stay there. It's kind of like it gives you the brainwave state and you can stay there, but you can also think about other stuff. So it's not, it's like, it's a really good tool and it gives you brainwave entrainment so that as you use it more and more, it's like your brain starts to get used to being in those brainwave state bands. And I've been playing around with a new tool I have, which reads your brainwave EEG monitors and in the meditative state. So it's really kind of fun. So I've been playing around with that on my computer, and it's really neat to look at how when you're listening to the tones versus just a normal brainwave state. So it's kind of a fun thing to play around with.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
To see that. Yeah.
Sure. So are you hosting these online where people can do it, or is this in person?
No, it's online. I teach several classes online. I've got my awakening workshop coming up too. So, and that's a 2-day half days. When I do the online classes, they're just for 2 hours. The Tuesdays, that's every week, and then I also do one class a month. So I'm doing spoon bending in November, and the awakening workshop next month. And June, I think I'm doing an outreach workshop, and there's a personal development workshop and a healing development workshop. So lots of different things. So you can go and find me on Facebook. So you can look for me there, and I've got my workshop schedule posted, or you can send me an email to bethhaley@gmail.com. And I can get you signed up for the free Tuesday night meditation classes from that. Or, let you know my workshop schedule, or yeah.
Awesome. That's great, because hopefully we'll get you some new people to join from this.
Well,
I
love sharing this. Yeah,
Totally.
I love sharing this work because it really does give you the opportunity to have your own conversation with your own guidance. And so when you can get into that nice brainwave state that Hemi Sync helps you to get to, it's just such a positive, and it also kind of lets you know that you're not alone in the world, even if you might feel like it. And with COVID, people have been really feeling alone and cut off and separated. And when you can get into these nice meditative states, then you start to get some conversation that's happening, with the non-physical world or the non-physical realms. So it can be quite helpful.
I actually have been, I still use the Byron Metcalf one, the Shaman's Heart 2, and that's the one that I use when I'm doing most of my rituals. I find that it puts me right into that perfect state where you're in between the three worlds and you're able to really, really access spirit with it. So it's a really helpful tool. I still use it like every day right now.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm so glad you're getting really good benefit from it. That's great.
Yeah, for sure. So
You do such amazing work. I tell people, I've sent several people to you recently, so I hope you've gotten them. So
yeah, we've had a few coming in for sure.
That's good. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, it's I really enjoy that all of the ones that they have that are not guided. Mom really loves the guided ones because she has a hard time with it, but I find that stops me from going where I need to go. So I use the non-guided ones, and whether you're just doing your own meditation or you're doing a ritual or whatever, I find that depending on what the sound waves are for, they're hugely beneficial. Like you said, within 15 minutes you're in a state that you couldn't otherwise reach without spending maybe an hour if you're a seasoned meditator, right?
Yeah, some assistance, right? And so that's a really beautiful shortcut that Hemi Sync does offer. And the Monroe Institute's doing some amazing stuff. They've got some online classes that they're doing as well with their residential trainers. So they're really growing and expanding, and I'm really grateful to see that, because I think they're the premier consciousness school in the world. So for people that
For
have gone
sure.
there. But
Yeah.
that's just my opinion. But
But you've been, and you know,
yeah, I've been 11
firsthand.
times. I've been
Yes.
to
So,
11 of their programs. So that's where the mediumship came in when I took the Lifeline program. And, so that started happening. And I went home after Dave and I did the Gateway. We went and did the Gateway in 2008 together. And he came home and he went back to work, and he's kind of an engineer, the left brain kind of person, and the guys at work were kind of teasing him when he first went back to work, like, geez, Haley, what kind of drugs are you on, you're so calm. So that was kind of interesting. And for me, I went back to work. I was doing psyche at a chiropractic office, and I started getting information psychically from my clients. So for me, that was really like amazing. After a week at the Monroe Institute, that there's a book by a lady that went there, and her title of it was Suddenly Psychic, and that's kind of what happened to me. So it's quite interesting, because when you have your first client that happens with, it's like they're telling you in your mind, they've told you in their voice, because you hear them telling you. And so that's how it worked with me anyway. So it's like, it's really was confusing at first, because I'd say, well, the first client said, well, how did you know that? Well, you told me. No, I didn't. It was like, but you did. I heard you say it to me. So it's interesting. It's interesting. And that's a kind of a funny thing when people find out that, you have a psychic thing, then they get worried about being around you, because it's like, oh my God, she's going to know absolutely everything that I'm thinking every moment of every day. And
yeah.
sorry, that's not how it works. And I'm very grateful that's not how it works. Can you imagine being
Oh, you'd be
bombarded?
busy. It'd be
Well, no, but
chatter all
yeah,
the
but
time.
being bombarded by that all the time. You
Yeah.
can't walk through a mall without thousands of people's stuff coming in. It would be like, ah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a nightmare, not a
It
blessing.
does. It does. So I've always been really grateful that it's like, for me, I kind of made the choice that I ask people, is it okay if I do a reading for you? And that seems to open the gift. Occasionally I'll get stuff that's just like, spirit's so anxious to say it, and it's like, okay, I'll tell them that, right? But for the most part, it waits until I say, is it okay if I do the reading? Which that I'm really grateful that I did that. It's because that way I don't have stuff coming at me all the time. I read that book, Anthony Williams, I think he's the medical intuitive, the medical medium, and
Yeah.
and he had that, right? And I mean, he said in the book that I'd read that it was really difficult to deal with that constant bombardment all the time. So I can see why it could be a real hard thing for people to get used to.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another one that I love, and I always tell people that have psychic tendencies to read, and it's Psychic Witch by Matt Oren. And he's got lots of really good tools in there for people who are naturally psychic, for how to turn it down and turn it off. And then obviously for people that have a hard time, how to do better with it and how to turn it on. But I thought that was a really cool thing that very few people talk about, right? Like that, it's great to open this up, but now how do you close the floodgate, right?
Well, and if that's how it occurs for you, yeah, it's that can be a real issue. And I mean, when I first started getting my mediumship abilities, one of the things that happened was I was getting visitors like at night all the time, like, because it's almost like do you get this too, that you send out this light gets sent out, and it's like, oh, well, go there, because obviously he can see us or she can see us. And I'm sure you have that too.
Well, and
So
I get lots of wandering dead, actually, as what is attracted to me. And I don't know if it's me or if it's because I work with psychopomp spirits or what it is, but that seems to be what I attract. And yeah, I'll wake up and they'll be standing looking at me over my bed. And it's like, we need to sort out business hours here, folks.
well, what I did was I created a staircase. I created an etheric kind of a staircase so that they don't now even have to come into my home. I just created this beautiful staircase, and I asked, the angels to be at the top, to be present, to greet people. And I found that really, really helpful. So and that was just a creation that I kind of, made up in my imagination, but it seems to work. I don't have them coming and visiting me and waking me up. I shouldn't say never. It does happen occasionally, but it happens a lot less than it used to.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually a good idea. I might have to come up with a queue system like at a movie theater or something.
Please wait your turn outside my door until I'm finished sleeping.
While the rope is across the lane, you may not enter.
Yeah. And I guess that, that could be helpful. So any kind of a tool, it's amazing, isn't it? How powerful our thoughts and our imagination can be. Like, that's one of the things I love teaching the spoon bending class, is because when people can actually feel that metal spoon get soft in their hands, they start to recognize how powerful our thoughts are, and how much, if our thinking and getting into that aligned state can create a softening in a metal spoon, how powerful are the thoughts that we're thinking repetitively day after day after day. And so it starts to become a thing of, well, you start paying attention to what you're thinking about. If you don't like what you're manifesting in the world, start paying attention to what your dominant thinking process is. And then you'll start to get some clues as to, oh, well, maybe that's why, this and this and this is happening, is because I'm thinking it in my mind so many times. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, affirmations are super powerful tools. And if you're only ever using negative affirmations, whether intentional or not, that's what you're going to get, right? You hear of these weird manifestation stories of, somebody saying, every time that I see you do that, it breaks my heart or whatever. And then all of a sudden one day they have a heart attack because they keep saying it, or
keep saying the same thing. Yeah. And it's funny because sometimes those things do create that way, and then other times they don't. So it's interesting. It's like I think there's a balance, and I haven't quite got it 100% where that is, but I think there's a balance between what we've kind of designed for ourselves before we come into this physical incarnation, for the experiences we wanted to create, and those accidental things that happen when we kind of just bump into each other and stuff just happens, right? So I think there's a balance there, but I can't tell exactly where that balance point is for everyone, because everybody's different and everybody's unique. So
absolutely.
But yeah.
What you got going on there, Ma? You're doing the be quiet during the show thing again.
No, I didn't mean to. We had someone knocking, so I had to message them and say, sorry, we're doing a podcast. So yeah. So I didn't mean to be distracted and out, but
yeah, and you guys have some wonderful crystals and stuff at the shop, and it's so nice to be able to see them. I think that's so great that when you do your little holding them up, and this is what we got. And I love that rose that I bought, that Jerusalem rose that I bought.
Rose of Jericho, yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I haven't used any of the water yet because it evaporates so quickly that I sometimes don't recognize that it's gone, and then the thing is back small again. So I haven't actually saved any of the water.
It totally is. I was talking to another lady just today, actually, and hers was doing the same thing. She said the same thing. I haven't been able to save any water because what's going on right now is just sucking all the water up. And apparently going into spring, we're super dry here. And because they're not even lasting a week right now. It's like 2 days and the water's gone.
Yeah. So that I put a lot in, so I'm hoping I'll get a little bit to and I did you teach a class yet on it about what to do with the water? Because I think that'd be really cool to have a class.
Danny we haven't done a class on it, but she has a PDF printout on it. That is in the lineup of getting some of our classes done and up.
Okay.
Apparently we're discovering that this time factor of recording takes a lot.
It does. It takes a while, and it's so dedicated. And you were saying you had like 30 of them now that you've got saved. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we're at, I think 20 that we have edited and are ready to go up. And then we've got, I think we have another 20 or 30 booked to do. So, I mean, it's busy, but it's good.
It is. It's people are so needing this information, right? Because there's so many people that are getting, these hello, spirit wants to talk to you messages. If it doesn't freak them out and make them really frightened, then they start going on a search saying, hey, what just happened there?
Yeah,
So, and this is really a good place to get information, is from people that have been there, done that.
Well, and with this, we're able to link a whole bunch of different people's wisdoms, different modalities, and so that our audience will be able to find who they connect with and which methods they need to be with, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's been super fun. And so we're so blessed to know so many amazing people that keep wanting to come and talk to us and teach us different ways, and so that our audience can have different pathways for them to see where they want to explore and where they want to head. So
and you attract them too, because you're so beautiful. Your energy is just so gorgeous and out there, and it's just, you just attract them. So it's not a wonder that you have so many people.
You're the sweetest. But truly, it goes back to like we're only here because of all the pieces that got placed in our journey, right? Like honestly, when we met Beth, we were a gun shop.
I know.
Right?
It was awesome. I got to tell my friends I'm teaching meditation classes at a gun shop, and they were like, what?
Right? And so this whole journey all started with you, really. And so it really is, we always give kudos back to you, Beth. It's what opened it up and said, hey, this is okay. Let's get this community going. And the community just really exploded from doing the meditation classes here in the shop. Was amazing, right?
Yeah.
And
I love sharing them.
Do it.
Yeah. I love
did it with you, still do it, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And so that's part of the ripple effect that I love so much, is that whatever we do cause a ripple, and it's amazing to see where that ripple goes.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a ripple that goes out, and it also comes back. So when we're sending out love and caring and conscientiousness to other people, that's the ripple that's coming back. And if we're sending out other stuff, well, that's the ripples that's coming back.
Right.
So, there's a purpose for everything, right? There's a purpose for everything, and magic and all of that has a purpose. So, and everybody is going to have their own personal experience with it all. So it's all about how you want to intend and what you want to do with it. So, yeah.
And then one of the classes, I'm sure I don't remember which book you were talking about, but in one of our classes, and you were saying, in the future, or what you saw, or it was a class that you had been or something.
Yeah.
And that you saw that the school would be from home online, and people would work from home. And that was well before COVID was even whispered about.
Yeah.
Right. And we're like, oh, come on, that'll be so far in the future. And wouldn't that be a shame how it's going to do to society to not have the like coming together of people and everything. And then boom, there we were, and we lived it. That always comes back to me, like Beth said that in class one time.
Yeah, I get these things that happen, like my husband and I, we were in Venezuela in 1999, and I had a dream about the terrible mudslides and things that happened there in Venezuela just shortly before Christmas. And I said to my husband that, I'm really worried. Can you come home with us now? Because I saw this thing happen, and I don't think you're going to make it home in time for Christmas. And 50,000 people died during that. So it's really unfortunate. I didn't know who to talk to. I don't think anybody could have done anything anyway, but I do get stuff like that occasionally. And so, I just never know what to do with it. It's like, oh,
okay, now what?
Now what? And you just, I think that's it's kind of a side effect of living your life connected, and knowing that you're connected to the all that is, right? And whether you know you are or you don't, you still are anyway. But when you know you are and you're listening and you're paying attention, you start to get kind of maybe some advanced notice about things. Even if you don't put it together, that, oh, this is what's coming, you do start to get an advanced sort of, hey, this might be happening. Like we were talking about our little puppy, and I knew for, a month or two before she made her transition that she was going to. So you can kind of prepare yourself a little bit, even though it still hurts. It's,
Yeah.
And it always is going to, but you can kind of have that opportunity to say your goodbyes a little bit better or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other advantage of being on this path of meditating and being conscientious about living your life intentionally versus just accidentally everything, right? So that in itself draws certain experiences for you to have, and you experience them differently, I think, because you look at them differently. Right. I that's something that kind of always stuck in my mind. If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Right. So if you're looking at life through a certain specific lens, then that's how you're going to really see it. And if you're,
For sure.
yeah.
And don't you think that we can shift that lens?
Oh, absolutely.
I know for me, like I really do feel like you were the pivotal point in my life of changing for, like, just to up level it to this degree where we're going. And so once again, I thank you again for that.
You're so
But
welcome.
it gets you on the path, and just like, because I live my life intentionally and through gratitude.
Yes.
Like, and so my eyes of the kids and Jesse have always teased me about having my rose-colored glasses, because I do live that way anyways, and I want to believe the best in people. Some things have happened, and of course,
Yeah.
sadly, that's not true. But my shift has been that it's okay. I don't have to have just rose-colored glasses on, but I can always live through gratitude. And so see things through gratitude, and also the trust of your intuition.
And as you live your life that way, look what you're drawing to yourself, right?
Right?
So it's like this beautiful, experience. Like, I like this infinity thing, because
Right.
we, as souls, okay, we get to come in and we get to explore the light, and then we get to explore the dark, and then we get to explore the light, and we get to explore the dark, and somewhere in there we find out where it is that we fit ideally, right? And there is there's no judgment about it from the non-physical side. It's just what it is, right? But
Right.
everything has its equilibrium. So if you're off over here exploring, whatever the most negative of the negative thing you can think of, then you're going to have that vibration present at that place. Whereas if you're, over here exploring the most loving kindness thing you can be, you're going to have your vibrational experience at that place. So that's kind of how I've seen it being, laid out. It's like, and the two don't get to meet up, right? It's like the only place they meet is in the middle at the heart chakra, right? Which is kind of that journey of when you can be compassionate and loving to whatever it is that you're experiencing in your world. Yeah. So, and sometimes things aren't very nice. Like, I know just locally at the Pigeon Lake School, what just happened. And it's so hard to be in the midst, I'm sure. I mean, the families that have been affected by that. And, it's so hard to have those kinds of things happen in our world. And how do we take the good from that? How do we look at it from the highest place? Because sometimes these terrible things do happen. Mm-hmm. And so how do we take that and make it a blessing rather than make it a curse? Because it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, for sure. And so where do you think that we go from those kind of places? And even through the last 2 years of what we've been through, right? It's been, no matter who,
yeah,
we've all been affected somehow.
Absolutely.
So how are some of your classes kind of geared to that, to get to our highest selves through what we've all been through right now.
Yeah, the whole point of going down this path of seeking more knowledge and more wisdom is expanding your choices, because the more, it's kind of like any kind of education, right? The more you start to educate yourself on a certain level of experience, the more you're going to realize your choices are available. So by having those choices available to you, it's better than having, this much choice space available to you, right? Because you keep your focus so narrow. Like, my world only fits in this little bottle, and if it doesn't fit in here, I'm not even going to pay attention to it. Okay, well, then your choices just fit in that little bottle too. So that's just your choice, and that's your free will, and spirit always honors that.
For sure. And I would say, even, not only just expanding in your knowledge, but experimenting with different frequencies as well. Like, if you only ever do, let's say, Reiki, and then you don't ever want to try maybe some shamanic style healing, you're never going to get the benefit of having had that experience. And you might never find out that, hey, you're a natural shamanic healer rather than a Reiki healer. Or, like, there's people that I know that, they do a lot of underworld journey work and stuff, and a lot of people see that as the dark place to be, but they come out of there and they do such good for people with those energies, and they're able to help people cope with their shadow and their darkness and everything else. But they had to experience it themselves to be able to do that, right? So it's, and on the other side, we have people that do way too much light stuff, and they don't know how to deal with they don't know how to deal with that. Or perhaps somebody's too dark and they need to touch the light, and they so variety is the spice of life, right? You might find your exact perfect vibration, right?
And I saw that Facebook post that you put on there about, I'd rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener being called to war. And that there are things that are not so nice that are there. And it's about, if you don't expect them, and you're not prepared, they can take you kind of off guard. But I also ask for guidance and protection, right? If I'm out journeying in some of those non-known places, I ask for that. And that's some of the stuff that I teach in my classes, is you put a resonant energy balloon around you that kind of does help to keep you a little bit safer. And so I really liked that Facebook post that I read of yours, because it was like, yeah, he's right. You do have to have a balance. It can't all be love and light, and then you go out into midnight in a dark alley and expect that what's not, that there's not going to be anything negative in the world.
Well, and
that's where you can get yourself into trouble.
Absolutely. And that brings up a good point too, that like, we recognize night, and we all go through the night every night, but the night is very much a lower vibrational energy. It's a darker time. It's when the spirits are more active. It's when things are more dangerous. It's inherently a more dangerous time. But that doesn't mean that we should all fear the night. We should learn how to deal with the night. We should learn how to deal with the creatures that might be in the night. We should know that there is a possibility of, wolves coming up on you when you're in the woods at night. You should know the possibility of getting mugged when you're in New York City in the night, and you should know how to deal with that. Same as during the day, there's lots of things that can cause people troubles. You can be blinded by the sun. You can, there's so many different things that you need to be aware of, but we don't just think of, night is bad and the day is all good. We experience all of it, and through that we learn our life cycle, right?
Exactly. And we all do have shadow stuff that's part of us, whether we want to admit it or see it or not. And having practitioners that are really adept at dealing with that. I mean, you don't go see a heart surgeon if you're having eye issues, right? You go to an eye doctor, right? So if you're dealing with that kind of stuff, you want to find a practitioner that's really well versed in that. And so that's also what's so beautiful about this time right now, because everybody's modality is out there, and it's all okay. You don't have to worry about being burned at the stake anymore. right? I mean, by practicing, or herbalism or whatever they used to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's been, and there's a lot of people that still have past life issues with this because they were burned at the stake, and that's still part of their soul experience, and it was so traumatic and so detrimental that they need someone to help them to clear it. So, we're all different, we're all unique, and that's why finding somebody that you resonate with and that's got the modalities that you're needing is so important. So
That's what I love about the community of this, because
yeah,
so many more people are open to checking it out, really.
yeah,
And
yeah,
open to learning, and oh, well, what else do I need? What else is there out there? And so it's been incredible how vast the community is and growing. And really, we're finding most people are okay with each other, right? Because, and just not only just okay, but like promoting each other, that, oh, I
yeah,
don't know that, but so and so over here knows this. Go see
yeah,
them, because they're
yeah.
very good at whatever that may be, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do. Because I know there's a lot of stuff I'm not aware of. So, I'm so grateful to be able to have other people that I can say, hey, you know,
Oh,
go see this person.
yeah, it's so fantastic.
And I think that's an important thing that a lot of people new to spirituality don't really realize, is that you kind of need to build your village. You need to have your tribe. You need to, you need to clan up a little bit and have the people that you can rely on and they can rely on you. Like a lot of the work that I do is just, trades with friends and things like that to, if I need a certain healing done, I will go to that person. Or if I need a reading done
Yeah.
that I can't do, I'll go to that person. And then if they need, some spell work done, they'll come to me, or they'll come for a tarot reading or whatever. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think, is that something you guys are going to do, is put a list together of the people that, you have that are the modalities? Because I think that's so valuable to have that, I have that.
That's a good point. We haven't yet, but as our podcasts grow, the different people that are in there. And so I guess maybe that's another thing you'll have to do there, Mr. is make us an
Oh
index
dear,
of all
I've
the
just made
people.
more work. Sorry. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot. There's so much available, and there, there's room for everything.
There
It's
really is. Absolutely.
it's just being willing to be open and to trust that your guidance is going to take you hopefully in the right direction. And if it doesn't take you in the right direction, then maybe ask the questions, okay, where am I not listening to my own gut, or where am I following the crowd more so than listening to what I need for me? So, because I think Tony Robbins is a wonderful, wonderful guy, but not everybody can afford the $2,000 to go take a class from the man. Right. So there's, there's lots of other things. And I took Dr. Joe Dispenza's training, years ago, and he's doing phenomenally well now with his, and he's really reaching a lot of people, but there's still a large segment of society that cannot get that budget. So I think doing these things where we can have free education for people and putting things out there that are like, that's why I do my free meditation classes on Tuesday night, because it gives people an opportunity to try the Hemi Sync for a few weeks and to see if there's something that really resonates with them. And the Hemi Sync CDs aren't that expensive to buy, and you can download them, really. So it's not, but being able to come and listen in a group and have people that have been there, done that, it's helpful, right? So all of these things are so, that the computers are allowing us to do is so beneficial, I think.
We
and
can
I
reach
thank
such
you.
a bigger audience, right?
Yeah, and I thank you for choosing to interview me on your podcast. I was really nervous. I was like, oh, I hope I'm going to do okay.
I told you, just hanging out with us. Totally good. So good. Yeah, so good to hang out. I was going to ask you about your one class. What was it? Oh, your life enhancement coaching.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, because
Well,
I'm unaware of that.
that's not a class. That's basically when people, people that have a block, or they're experiencing something that they can't really, trying to solve a problem at the same level that created it is kind of hard. So
Mhm.
having somebody else to kind of, come in and say, and I bring all of the years of experience that I've got with this to a coaching session with people. And I've had people say, that doing a couple coaching sessions has really been a real big change point for them. So that I love doing that, right? So and I do mini sessions. I do little 15-minute mini readings too. So for people that really can't afford to do an hour, $35 for a 15-minute little, that, and we generally goes half an hour, but that's kind of what I do for people that just want, and a quick answer to one or two questions. I can do that. So that's what the life enhancement coaching is all about, is people that
Okay.
want to come and do and my website's being worked on this, so if it's not working properly, it's just because it's being migrated and it's being worked on. So but my email is Beth Haley, which you can see on the back there, and @gmail.com. So you can send me an email, and or you can get in touch with Sandra, and she'll put you in touch with me too. So
Absolutely, we will.
she knows where I live.
I do. Yeah.
So yeah, basically that's the coaching is just, and I do coaching, like long-term coaching with people, because there are people that want, guidance for a period of time, and
Mhm.
getting them, because I mean, like you coming every week, right, and doing the classes, it's like it sort of makes and that's kind of what the coaching is with me, is when people want to do a certain level of growth or whatever, then they'll sign up for a number of classes. So yeah,
Well, it just stacks on top of each other, right?
it
So
does.
you just get more.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
become better, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I quite frankly don't have the energy to deal with 10, 15 clients in a day. So I'm really limited to, one or two a day, and that's it. That's all I can do. So, if those one or two are, have to wait a week or two, sorry. That's my capability, right? Mine, and I'm limited with that. So, and I have to honor my own physical well-being too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's good that you know the
Yeah.
limits, right?
Yeah. I just know not to go there. I have done 5 clients in a day, but I pay for it the day or two later. So
Yeah.
I just don't do it. I just don't go there anymore. So
And how about with your readings, Beth? Are you still doing lots of readings?
I
If
have
someone
done,
calls you, you can
yeah,
just, and
someone
they're
calls
doing
me. Yeah, if
whichever,
somebody
and
calls me, I'll do the readings and stuff. And again, it's just limited to, because I like I said, I've tried doing more than and I don't get anything after a while. It's like this
yeah,
just shuts off. So
right.
yeah.
Because your readings are more than just, you don't just read cards, you actually have mediumship that goes in.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you do them
and
both together, right? You
I
do
do,
your cards and then what comes.
and there's sometimes past life regression work that comes in. There's sometimes, like I never know in a session with a client what's going to show up. So it's just, whatever comes. So sometimes people will come through, and sometimes they'll call me for a mediumship reading and nobody shows up, or I'm getting information that's totally not accurate. And in some cases, it's actually a block from the customer or the client, because they don't want to believe that it's real. So if that's the case and they call me, I'm not getting anything. So it's unfortunate, but that's kind of how it works.
Mhm.
So their life belief trumps anything that I'm going to pull into the room,
Interesting.
because it's their
It's their
yeah,
stuff.
it's their stuff, right? And so I'm, even though I'm very adept at it, if their belief is such that it would be too much of a challenge for them, I plain don't get anything, or I get information that's wrong,
Yeah.
because that just furthers their belief. And again, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and if it's not possible in their world, then that's the evidence that shows up. And I used to judge myself about that, but I don't anymore. I get it that it's a co-creative exchange when people book a session with me. And if they come in with limitations and they come in with, this kind of an energy, then that's kind of the reading they're going to get.
Yeah. Well, and that's your growth too, that you trust all that intuition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And any of the downloads from consciousness, right? That it's, you know the boundaries and the limits that what is be available.
Not always. Like that was kind of surprising to me, when I had that happen, a few weeks ago. It was like, I've never had this terrible of a reading. And then I went and asked my guidance, and it's like, oh no, she didn't want, so it's like, oh, okay, that's why that happened. So I get it. Yeah. But it's still, it wasn't pleasant for her and it wasn't pleasant for me. Right. It was like, what do you do with that? And I didn't charge her. I just said, no, this isn't working. Yeah. So, you don't pay me if you're not getting anything. So even though you've taken up my time, I probably should have charged her anyway, but that wasn't where I was at. Right. So. Yeah.
For sure. And it happens. I mean, even in energy healing, I have run into very few, but I have had a few clients where, their psyche and maybe it's their guides or whatever are so attached to that belief that this is not going to work. And I refuse to open up and I refuse to connect you that, I can sit there for an hour trying to move a little bit of energy and nothing happens.
Nothing. Right? Yeah. They're not going to feel anything and nothing's going to stick. And you know what? I've had people that have come in and they've had amazing healing sessions. And then, 10 minutes after they walk out, they're thinking the same old negative thoughts again, the same old stuff. And they just draw it all right back to them. So it's just kind of, if you're not willing to let go of whatever it is that's attracted that for you in the first place during a session, you're kind of not helping yourself by paying somebody to do the work for you. You have to do your own work to a certain extent. Absolutely. Someone can hold the space and they can bring in the energies, but you have to be willing to do your own work to a certain extent. And if you're looking for a quick fix or a Band-Aid, all you're going to attract is charlatans.
For sure. Well, and then another thing too, we had KL the shaman on a couple weeks ago, and we got into the weekend warrior type thing with the people going to the retreats. And it's not that all retreats are bad, and it's not that all retreat teachers are bad. There are some really, really good retreats out there. So for any of our listeners that listened to that show and you thought that I was bashing them, I really wasn't. There are some really good ones, but what I find the biggest issue is the people that take them, for the most part, go, and you can be the most Zen Buddhist monk for a week while you're at the retreat and you're in Tibet. Yeah. But then as soon as you get on that plane, it starts to go away because you start going back to your thinking. Then you land in New York City and you're back in the concrete jungle. And now all of a sudden you're not meditating at all. And you're back to getting frustrated at the guy on the bus with you and everything else, instead of taking those teachings and actually applying them.
And bringing them in. And sometimes it takes people 10 retreats before they get that. Right. And so, and again, it's purposeful, and it's providing work for the people that are the retreat people. And, it's purposeful. And if that's what people don't recognize and don't want, our habits run us pretty much from the age of 35. We are more of habit than we are of beingness. And so after that age, you're just running the program. So it takes consistent effort to go in and change some of those programs that you've run for 35, 40 years, to go in and change them. You're not going to change them in a weekend. And anybody that says you are,
you've been given those tools. It's like having a shower.
It. Yeah.
You have to shower every single day,
or it does brush your teeth. Exactly. Yeah. So if you're right, if you're not going home and taking some of the practices with you, like the meditation, like getting connected with spirit, like, those things that you learn while at the retreat, you're just going to fall right back into the same habits that created the you that went to the retreat needing something. And it fills you for a little while.
Oh
And
yeah, for sure.
it's lovely and it fills you for a little while, but it doesn't create the change unless you're willing to consistently be the change, right? And
Well, and just to give a small example for our viewers or listeners of how hard it is to actually implement change and make it last. Cross your arms. Now cross them the other way. Now I challenge you for the next week that every time you cross your arms, cross it the opposite way of how you initially did it.
yeah,
And look at how difficult that is to remember and how difficult that is to put in place. And that's just a simple habit.
mhm,
That's not your everyday thinking. That's not the way that your brain is programmed. That's
right,
not, all of that. How often do you drive home from work and you don't even remember driving because you're
right,
on autopilot the whole way? You
yeah,
take the same route that you've taken for the last 15 years to the same 9 to 5 job that you're going to every single day, and you don't
yeah.
even realize that things are happening. So
No,
even there, take a different road home every day, and it'll give you a
practice,
little more control, right?
yeah, practicing presence and being
Mhm.
present in the now moment, like Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. I mean, yeah, he lived on a park bench and, for a while when he first wrote that book because he was so enamored of the spiritual awakening that he had. But now the man travels first class and, because he made an industry out of recognizing one aspect of the spiritual journey. How many aspects are there?
Yeah. Wow. Well, and even when you want to connect with the spirits or consciousness or whichever, you can't just do it. Oh, today it's Tuesday.
Yeah,
All right, what do my guides have to say? Well, you're out of practice. You don't
yeah,
even, you have to do it. You have to connect with them much more often to be able to go there, right?
yeah. Try that with your mom. Call her only when you need her and see how often. Your mom loves you. Your mom wants you to be successful in the world, but
Yeah,
just take advantage of her every time you talk to her. Treat her like you treat your spiritual companions, and they're infinitely more loving than any human on the planet is,
for
and yet
sure.
still, you know,
Yeah.
you have these levels of expectation, right? So,
And they do love hanging out with
oh
us, and they
yeah,
love,
absolutely.
conversing, but we need more practice with them to be able to get there and get it,
Well,
than rather than just on Tuesday every few months.
yeah, well, and for some people that's all that they have available. So if you're
Yeah, but
hopeful,
if you're
yeah,
wanting more, you need to
yeah,
do more. You need
yeah,
more practice with it.
yeah, and being respectful and in gratitude about what you are getting too. Well, I don't like the gifts you've given me, so I'm going to not pay attention to them. I want this specific thing. Sorry, it's like a 2-year-old, right? I want the big one. Well, the
Yeah.
big one's bigger than you are. You can't, you got to be able to, have the capacity to hold that, you know? You don't give a 2-year-old a 2-liter box of ice cream and a spoon and say, here, have that for dinner, and not expect them to be bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
Right? That's just, it doesn't work that way. They'll be in a sugar spin for a while and then they're going to crash. So, as a parent, as a loving parent, you try not to do that to your children. And that's kind of how spirit looks at us, right? They're not, it's not going to do anything to us that's going to cause us more harm in the long run than good. They're not beyond giving us a quick wake up thing that's like something that's so beyond, but you can't expect that every day. You can't
Yeah.
expect spirit to communicate with you every day like that. But I would be willing to bet that almost everybody that's listening to this has had something where spirit has given them that's been so far beyond that they've been awoken to the fact that spirit exists.
Yeah.
And now that you've been awoken to that fact, now what are you going to choose to do with it? What are you going to create with it, with your life? How are you going to honor that gift that was given to you? Because it really is a gift.
Absolutely.
I think you're right. I think everybody has had something. whether they want to admit it or not, right?
Yeah. And that's the other thing, right? You can push it off and disregard it, but I think spirit so wants to communicate with all of us and wants all of us to recognize the fact that we are great. We are part of something that is so much greater than we could ever imagine. And so it's left up to us then to decide, because we have free will. It's left up to us to decide what do we want to do with it? What do we want to create with it? And when people create something that's helping lots and lots of other people like you guys are doing, when people, they start to get rewarded in ways on the earthly plane level, right? And that's kind of the process. You can't expect to go out and create one thing and be a millionaire and everybody's going to come rushing to your door. I don't think that any marketing campaign has ever worked like that. You actually have to put effort and energy into, and it's the same thing with the spiritual journey. You actually have to consistently put effort and energy, and it's step by step by step. And the giant leap stuff happens incredibly rarely. And so if people that are on the spiritual journey are expecting, you're going to go see a practitioner and you're going to get a giant leap, and then you're going to go see this practitioner and you're going to get a giant leap, you're kind of setting yourself up for not really getting your expectations met. But if you go and you say, I'd like to have, the next step in my journey, I'd like to get the next iteration, the next thing I need to work on, easy.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of got to think of your spiritual muscles kind of the same as your real muscles. Like if you go to the gym one day and you expect that you're going to be Mr. Olympia in the bodybuilding circuit, it's not going to happen. But if you go and you make consistent dietary choices 80% of the time, and you go to the gym 2-3 times a week, or even if that's beyond you, you get up and you go for a 5-minute walk every day, and you are consistent with it. Those little consistent changes are what continue to build up to be big things in the future. If you do that, within 6 months, you're going to notice a difference in your physique or your health. It's no different with the spiritual, right?
No, it's not. It's a consistent habit of what are you doing with it and who's benefiting by what you're doing with it. Mostly you are. Honestly, mostly you benefit from your spiritual journey. And the people that are directly impacted in your life and the people that you run across might get some benefit from it. But the biggest benefit is for you. And the other thing that's beautiful about this is it's all cumulative. Everything that you're doing in this lifetime is accumulation for the next one. So, all the stuff that you're learning and bringing into your world, it's accumulating for the next experience. Because if you can bring that into who you're being, not who you're thinking you're being, but actually your full beingness, that's not lost when you make your transition and decide to come back around. That comes back with you. I mean, that's how come, you've got 2-year-olds that are, piano concertos. They come in with it because they spent a lifetime or probably several lifetimes learning that particular, skill. And so they've come in with it. And so you see that a lot, but it's not an accident. It's because they brought that was their beingness in with them. So, and that's the challenge, is what can you bring into your beingness before you make your transition this time? Because anything that you do manage to do that with, it comes back with you the next go around, because it's now part of who you are. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Sure. All right. Well, we are just about at our time here, Beth. So thank you for coming on today. We absolutely enjoy talking to you every time that we see you. So
thank you.
It was good to talk to you. Now, just one parting thing, because I know you love Hemi Sync. If you had to pick anywhere for somebody to start and for their first experience with Hemi Sync to be, which one would you send them to?
Which one? That's a good question. If you like the guided meditations, I would pick probably getting to know your spirit guides, like the Lee Stone, getting in touch with your spirit guides. If you don't like the guided ones, I would say either, depending on what kind of music you like, if you like the piano, Riverwalk is beautiful, or Inner Journey, or Higher. So those are the non-guided. And if you like the shamanic, definitely the Shaman's Heart by Brian Metcalf would be, so if you like the shamanic journeying, that would be a really good one. So that's not one, but it's giving people an option. So
That's a good place to start, though.
Yeah, but Inner Journey is a nice short one. It's only 30 minutes, and it's not guided, but it's got really beautiful frequencies, and I know a lot of people really like that one. So yeah.
Awesome. And
See, and I'm just gonna piggyback onto that because I have favorites that I pull from.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please share your favorites.
I've had some great success with Liquid Luck.
Okay.
I love that one. I also really like, now after my brain injury, weight loss one, even though it's not about weight loss for me, it's about healing your body.
Yeah.
So anything, the weight loss one, it's called the weight loss one, even though it's really not, it's all about healing our body. So that is always a very big go-to one for me.
Okay.
I also love another manifestation one because I'm big on the manifestation game.
Yeah.
What's the other one? I don't know. I guess you have to tune in to another one for me.
Yeah, there you go.
I can't remember. I have a stack on my nightstand that I draw from, but
I'm so glad. Yeah, I do too. But I'm loading them all. I'm actually loading them all on my phone so that I can listen to them wherever I'm at. So yeah.
I'm still old school on the CD.
I like the CDs. I think the CDs give you a little bit more frequency than the MP3s, because I notice when I do the wave files, people have a little bit more of a deep experience than when I play an MP3 file on the Tuesday night classes. So I find that interesting, but the wave files take up a whole lot more room.
Yeah, right.
So the actual original CDs, and you have a bunch in your shop, right? Still?
Yes, we still have a lot of Hemi Sync here at the shop. So come to the shop and see them. Or of course we will ship to all of our viewers that are not close to us.
And I can bring you more too. So
perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for interviewing me, and
always a pleasure.
Such a lovely experience, and I'm so grateful to see what you're doing. I'm looking forward to seeing more. So yay.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Thank you for coming on. So everybody, that was Beth Haley with us here at the North Witch Podcast. And if you want to check out her services, check out bethhaley.com. Or if you want to get in touch with her for her Tuesday night free meditations, bethhaley@gmail.com is where you can email her to get in touch with her for that. And thanks for coming on, Beth. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.